Welcome to The Explainer. Let's talk about the tiger, one of the most powerful, most iconic animals on the planet. I mean, for centuries, it's commanded our respect, our awe, but today, it's standing at a critical crossroads. So we're going to dive into its biology, its behavior, and its really precarious future. And it's a story you'll see of both amazing success and just devastating loss.
Let's start with just one number, but it's the crucial number. Right now, there are an estimated 5,574 tigers left in the wild. And yeah, that's for the entire planet. Now, that number, it sounds shockingly small, right? But what's fascinating is that it's also, believe it or not, surprisingly hopeful.
So, that number, it paints a really complex picture. It's kind of a tale of two extremes. On one hand, get this, we've seen a staggering 74% increase in the wild population since 2010. I mean, that's a huge conservation win. But, and this is a big but, on the other hand, tigers are now crammed into less than 7% of the territory they used to roam. So you've got this incredible recovery, but it's all happening inside a world that's just getting smaller and smaller for them.
So, to really get our heads around this paradox, here's what we're going to do. We'll look at the state of the tiger today, break down the anatomy of this perfect predator, and follow its life as a hunter. Then we'll look at why its kingdom is shrinking, what the biggest threats are, and finally, the incredible fight for its future.
Okay, let's jump right in with that 2025 status report. And this is where things get, well, complicated. It's a totally fractured reality. You've got some regions celebrating this amazing comeback, while in others, they've lost their tigers completely.
So all living tigers today fall into two main groups. You've got your continental tigers, that's your famous Bengal, and the huge Amur, or Siberian tigers. And then you have the Sunda Island tigers. And sadly, that group is now only represented by the critically endangered Sumatran tiger. Its cousins, the Javan and Balinese tigers, well, they went extinct back in the 20th century, which is just heartbreaking.
So what makes the tiger the apex predator? I mean, really, what makes it so formidable? Well, the answer is all in its anatomy. It's basically a masterpiece of evolution built for one thing and one thing only: to hunt.
Literally every part of a tiger is a weapon. That shortened snout, it delivers an incredible bite force, and those canines can be up to 3 inches long, the longest of any big cat. Its forelimbs are just pure muscle, built to grab and hold prey. And its claws? They're retractable, up to 10 centimeters long. They basically function like switchblades. Amazing. And of course, those iconic stripes. They're not just for show. It's a special kind of camouflage called disruptive coloration. It just completely breaks up the tiger's outline in the forest light. And get this, each pattern is totally unique, like a human fingerprint, which is how researchers can tell them apart. But what's really wild is that the stripes are even on their skin, right underneath the fur.
So you've got this incredible hunting machine with a whole suite of sensors, from amazing night vision to super sharp hearing that can find hidden prey. But it's the raw power that is just mind-blowing. We're talking sprints up to 40 miles per hour, leaps of 33 feet in a single jump, and the stamina to swim across rivers 5 miles wide. Just unbelievable.
Okay, so how does all that incredible anatomy actually translate into the life of a hunter? Well, a tiger's whole existence is pretty much defined by the hunt. It's this solitary cycle of energy, patience, and just raw power.
The strategy is a total masterclass in ambush. First, they locate the prey, often just by listening. Then comes the stalk, which is an exercise in absolute total stealth. Then, bam, an explosive ambush from the rear. And finally the kill, a quick, precise bite to the neck. But here's the thing, even with all that power, it is a tough life. Their success rate is really low. They only make a kill in about 1 out of every 10 to 20 hunts.
So a tiger's life starts after about 100 days of gestation, with a small litter of cubs, but those first 2 years are absolutely critical. I mean, life in the wild is just unforgiving, and there's a really brutal reality here. About half of all wild cubs will die before they even make it to 2 years old. They're lost to starvation, other predators, or even infanticide.
But here's the twist. Even with all that power, all those perfectly honed skills, the tiger is facing a massive threat. The very kingdom it was built to rule is vanishing.
Just look at this map. It really tells the whole story, doesn't it? That huge red area, that's where tigers lived just over 100 years ago. And those tiny little specks of brighter red, that's all that's left now. They have lost a staggering 95% of their historical range. I mean, that is one of the most dramatic losses of territory for any large mammal on the entire planet.
So today, that wild population is really concentrated in just a few key places. India is the undisputed world leader here, home to over 3,600 tigers. That's the huge majority of the entire world's population. After that, you've got Russia, Indonesia, Nepal, and Thailand, with the next largest populations. So these 5 countries are, well, they're absolutely critical for the tiger's survival.
Which brings us right to the core of the problem. So what are the pressures that caused this decline in the first place and are still threatening tigers today?
Okay, ironically, one of the biggest issues is something called the captivity paradox. It's wild. There are way more tigers living in captivity than in the wild. We're talking over 8,000 in these so-called tiger farms in Asia and maybe 5,000 in the US alone. But here's the catch. These animals have zero conservation value. They're often inbred, they're hybrids, and they can't be released. So they exist completely outside the real fight to save their wild cousins. Meanwhile, back in the wild, the main threats are what you'd probably expect: habitat loss and human conflict. You see, as things like roads and farms cut through the forests, tiger habitats get broken up into these little islands, and this squeeze forces tigers into closer and closer contact with people. That leads to attacks on livestock and, really tragically, retaliatory killings by villagers who are just trying to protect their families and their livelihoods. But this story is not all doom and gloom. It's not just about decline. Because in the face of all these huge pressures, there's a very determined and actually increasingly successful fight for the tiger's future.
Remember that 74% population increase we talked about at the beginning? Yeah, that didn't just happen by accident. It was the result of amazing initiatives like TX2, which set a goal to double wild tiger numbers, and proved it could be done with enough political will. The strategy is all about using global standards to manage parks, using high-tech systems for patrolling, creating safe corridors for wildlife to move between habitats, and even some incredibly ambitious plans to reintroduce tigers to places they vanished from, like Cambodia.
Ultimately, this whole fight, it's about so much more than just one animal. The tiger is an apex predator. Its presence is basically a giant sign that says this ecosystem is healthy and thriving. So when we protect the huge forests the tiger needs to survive, we're also protecting countless other species and the vital resources those landscapes give to millions of people. So in the end, the fate of the tiger is really, truly linked to our own.